I'm Emma.
I'm Laura.
I'm from Chopova Lowena.
And this is Francesco. Hi. Steve. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
How important is storytelling to you through your work?
It is. It is definitely important. I'm kind of like rejecting that word a little bit right now. If you don't have that, you don't have anything. And
Yeah.
sometimes it feels like a little bit limiting compares to all the rest that we can say. Sometimes the storytelling becomes overlaps all the rest, and I think it's limiting in terms of fashion in general. I think that sometimes we even talk too much, and that storytelling somehow eats from the work itself, because we are in a obsessive, like, communicative environment.
Yeah.
And so it's a strange balance. No, it's a strange balance where sometimes you really want to push forward your intention through the clothes, so that storytelling is actually something you don't even have to explain, you don't even have to talk about, but it comes through the expression of the pieces, the enjoyment of the people wearing it, the
Yeah.
people wearing it on the street, and then maybe the show itself, talking through that. Yeah, I guess we have to dream, and those stories makes us dream. So
Yeah, I love that.
Totally agree.
how is it for you?
Yeah, I kind of think the same. I think sometimes there's a pressure to have a story and to have this sort of quick explanation of what you've done. And I think that as much as it is important for things, we work with a lot of traditional textiles and like upcycled fabric. So we love the fact that there's history in the textiles, but then I think the clothes and the lookbooks and the campaigns themselves, we really believe in them kind of speaking for themselves.
Absolutely.
I think
So
having a story kind of helps us design and helps us make the
Yeah.
world, like the story between, if we have to have a story between us when we're like creating, so we can kind
Yeah.
of both understand what we're creating together, I think.
Yeah.
Absolutely makes sense.
Do you think through everything that's happened this past year, people will value connection and the human hand in clothing more than before?
If I've been fighting for that, like, for a while before COVID even. It was actually a sort of like big challenge, because at a certain point we found all of us like separated with my team, and we had to find a way to regain that hand and that connection, and it was really difficult, because exactly our work is based on a very sensorial and emotional state of feelings. So I'm really looking forward to deep connections again, like sweating all together, basically, and really touching each other, and in a good and positive way. And I think there's going to be a moment where we have to kind of break the ice, and probably our work is going to be quite fundamental into that. If the more I'm thinking, the more I create distance through the clothes that I make, the more people will feel distant. So I'm actually thinking, how can we make something that allows us to melt, together somehow.
Yeah. Like exciting, exuberant, like real kind of like self-expression will also like play a huge part. I think people are really ready to like be seen. At least I
Definitely.
am.
For sure. Also that, and also like enjoying clothes in some
Yeah.
way. And I think like, for instance, like what you do, I admire, and I see it coming out even more now, just because there's this very bold on your face. You know, sometimes people is very good in making craft that you actually have to see through a little hem, that it's like beautifully hand stitched. Your practice makes it very visually very direct, which I love, and you can perceive that immediately. So I think it would be interesting to see like the combination of what we have learned in this year, in these 2 years almost, and the freedom of where we can go. I think that's going to be like interesting.
Our next question we have kind of talked about, which is, does craft play a role in your design process? But I guess that maybe more of like, because the prints and so much of what, I mean, it looks so kind of like handmade and sort of like, I mean, maybe this is where we bring as fashion art into the mix, but it does feel very artful and very.
I mean, I've never really liked to think about fashion and what we do in terms of art. I think it's a completely different realm, and I don't think we actually make art.
No.
But the process that we enact here at Marni, it's similar to the process of an artist in a studio. So I think that's why things feels very handmade and very touched by the hand, and in a way artsy, but they're not they're not pieces of art.
Yeah.
We started now years ago to get more and more obsessed about it, and each one in the team has almost like its own strength and capability. And there's somebody who can make beautiful hand paintings of flowers, or there's somebody who's incredibly good into draping, and actually we always try to challenge that dynamic through the group, and actually to swap the cards also many times, which I'm finding very interesting in the way we evolve here.
I think that makes like everything so much richer and more interesting and more thrown off. And I think because we are a duo, we get to do that. And I think that I don't think there's ever been one thing we've ever made where one person has kind of done it from start to finish. It constantly gets changed by the other person, which always adds so much more interest to it.
Do you consider gender when you're designing?
No. Marni has its own heritage, with lots of clients from different phases, and we're not completely a one unique thing that doesn't think about gender. I do not have any issues since I was a child about wearing women's or men's pieces. Never had. And my friends as well, or many friends of mine, as equally I have friends that engage a lot with masculinity or femininity. And I think I think that's the beauty of it all, of these multiple possibilities there.
Even though we design skirts, we've never thought in that way either.
I think that retailers and the market has to become more kind of adapted to that, because I think
I think the people is already out there,
totally completely
making the retail a different story. So things happen naturally sometimes, and and we just have people have just like we all have to kind of like go with the flow.
What informs your presentation / show ideas?
I started like trying again to kind of like bring a sort of like humanity and intimacy in the shows, and trying to look at things again from a different perspective, and sometimes doing it in a very simple way in order to re-challenge the system of how to show things. But then the more I worked with the people that interprets our clothes, that are actually part of our daily life, and there are people that walk in our shows, but they also make drawings for us, or songs, or sorts of things. The more I and we all together at Marni, we entered into this new realm of collaboration, let's say, the more our presentations are becoming about, representation of each one's life and each one's dynamic and reality. It's shifting from the kind of like show performance to how people really wants to wear those clothes.
We speak so much about it because we've never had a show, and we were kind of against the idea. And I think as a small brand, it's very expensive in the beginning, and it's quite. I think it's smart, kind of, not to do it. So we focus more on campaigns, and we keep talking about what is like the most impactful way, and what do people actually want to see. And I think through a lot of those conversations, it ends up being that I think a lot of people are just interested in seeing other people wearing it, like like how they move, like just the reality of the clothes, because at the end of the day, they're clothes that you want to be worn by people,
Absolutely.
and for them to put their stamp on them in a way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Feel good in them.
Yeah, and you should continue thinking about that. I mean, if you don't feel that that's your medium, don't do it. What are your plans for the future then? That would be like a journalist question.
Well, I think for the first time we're gonna make kind of a movie, and I think a lot of like a kind of a film. But I think in terms of our brand, I think that through the last couple of years, we've like grown up, and we're like trying to define what we do and all this stuff. And I think like humor plays a huge part in what we do. And I think we want to show the clothes moving. We want to bring people into that reality of the clothes, but then really like communicate like sense of humor, the everything that we are basically. So we've made a couple of books, and I think books are great tools. And I think that the kind of the lasting nature of books, the fact that you keep them and you treasure them, is really important to us.
Absolutely. Beautiful.
What are you looking forward to in the future?
Learning how to plant vegetables. Seriously, I'm actually really curious. I'm studying some books, and I'm very much into creating. I would love to have a little farm. And what about you?
I've actually started a little vegetable garden in my tiny.
Oh, really?
garden.
Amazing.
Finally, what advice would you give us as a small brand trying to navigate growth and keeping true to our identity?
Well, you already have the answer in the question.
Yeah.
Keep strong your identity and your deepest desires. I think, we are in a moment where it's very easy to get sidetracked by the machine and the demand. The more you're true to yourself, the better. And fight for that, like with your and yes, ask for help, for with mentors and people that can actually support your vision and your realm. So please continue to be creative, and don't ever let your guard down on that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.